Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Thursday evening, 8 p.m., and you're listening to the home of Commodore 64 remixes, Slay Radio. Let us spice up your evening with Slaygon's incoherent ramblings.
Anywho Hazel.
And Xiona's pro dance moves to the best selection of remixes, sits, and demo scene tracks. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this thing. Slay tuned.
Fiddly-dum. And finally.
Did you make it happen?
Finally, yes. Took a while.
Apologies for the delay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
It's the 19th of March, and now we are straight for 1 week in a quarantine. I mean, I am, because he was cheating. He went out yesterday, but...
Yeah, it's an interesting story around that. We got called to the office so they could tell us to work from home.
That was a genius move. I don't know what to say. It's like, how would it not be possible to do this announcement during a meeting?
Or via email.
Exactly. So, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes you don't have to look for logic in these things, I assume.
Exactly.
But anyway, things are going well around here. And today we have a very prominent guest, slightly after 9. He will be with us and you as well. He became the Remixer of the year 2019 and also won the Best C64 Remix category last week on the ROTY Awards show, if you have listened. So now we will ask a lot of questions from Peter, and you can know him a little bit better as a person as well, since many of you know his name and know his remixes, and he did plenty of things in the scene. So yeah, it's time to get to know him better, I guess. And yeah, until then we have several things to think of, because now I'm going to start off the show with also a song that you might not have heard yet, and that's going to be an amazing kickstart. But we also have an exclusive to show you, namely, can I say by whom?
Yes, you can.
So we also have in the first hour an exclusive from alle to show you. So stay with us and make sure you stick around, because there will be a lot of interesting things going on this evening. And yeah, how do you feel about this quarantine situation, by the way?
Hold on.
I'm not
just checking because I fucked up.
What?
Slightly. Hold on.
What did you?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Got a comment from Ezio Tonetto on YouTube. Hi guys, why can't I hear you on Slay Radio? My bad. I forgot the fucking streamer to the regular relays. God damn it, it's up and running now though.
Yeah, okay. Since when? Because then we have to say hello.
Yeah, exactly. Since now we should be live on the regular relays as well. Sorry guys. Hello guys. You guys on the regular relays as well. Hey.
You guys who only enjoy the audio experience, I can tell you that he was working very hard today to have an almost full-on video experience as well. So just so you know, you can always check it out through YouTube or Facebook. But of course, if you don't have time for that, you don't have to look at us. Definitely, it's probably not the best option, but we will have...
That's probably not what you want.
Yeah, we will have plenty of things here, and he was really working hard on the setup as well to make it work
And hopefully it will still work today, but we'll see.
Yesterday it worked, so I guess this is Murphy's Law, never mind. And make sure to post in your requests. Today there is a higher chance that if anything is related to Peter Clarke, then we will play it more likely than any other requests, but we play other requests as well. So especially in the first hour, after that we might have a few songs to show you that you might not know. And we also have a song for now that we kickstart the show with. And it was
exclusive.
Yeah, it's very exclusive. It's Peter's own composition. So somewhere down the line, the other one. that will also be played somewhere down the line.
Somewhere down the line, you will find the correct song.
Exactly. No, it's I set it up in my head, and for some reason I always get back to that. So I don't know why. So you think the world revolves around you.
Confidential Venus, always unsure, so many secrets. But as my mystery gets unfolds, she reveals the secrets she withholds. You make then twinkle your eyes at my friends. In spite of it, I still pretend you're gonna be true. You're so free with your charms, you're setting off all my alarms. Because you think the world revolves around you. Yes you do, yes you do. I got too close and touched the fire. Been bitten once, now I'm much shyer. So I've stopped running and quit the chase, and changed my number just in case you come around. And all of the confidence I've found is gonna get beaten to the ground and broken into by you. Oh, it can never be the same, and it's such a crying shame. Because you think the world revolves around you. Yes you do, yes you do.
think that the world revolves around you, Slagon?
Obviously it does, because otherwise it would be very weird.
Otherwise, it would be very weird.
Yeah, from my perspective, it does revolve around me, because everything around me is external to me. So by necessity, it does need to revolve around me.
Everything is relative, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay, then. And as you can see, I have my ammo for today. It's tea. No rum in there or anything like that. It very much looks like that you went out yesterday and brought home some sort of bacterials or viruses or who knows what.
Yeah, I just popped over to the office and I didn't touch anything on the way there, didn't touch anything on the way back except for when I went to pick up the beer and stuff, but I alcohol gelled my hands and everything every step of the way. As soon as I touched anything, that's what I did.
Apparently,
and I didn't touch my
help.
face. And I didn't touch my face.
Yeah.
Well, it helped me, apparently. Apparently it didn't help you.
Yeah, apparently it didn't help me, really. And I'm right now, I'm in 1 week quarantine. I'm very proud of myself that I can put up with it. I don't know if I should say something like that, but I used to be a very outgoing person, and I don't really know what has happened, but right now I'm completely fine being at home for a week. And of course, it might play a role, though, that we have a lot of meetings at work, and of course we resolve everything remotely, so it's not a problem, and they definitely keep me busy, which is good, because I definitely don't have time to get bored. I never was the bored type anyway, but yeah, a lot of things to do, and that's what I recommend for everyone to use wisely this time, because there are like so many things that you can do. Even if you are like around the walls, closed into your apartment or house or whatever property you live in. And yeah, a lot of options there. A lot of options. And yeah, I think, or I feel that I accomplished a lot of things actually that I wanted to accomplish this week. So
yeah, that's very good. There's pros and cons to working from home. And one of the pros is that you can essentially have a nap if you're tired. That's that looks a bit odd when you're in the office. So because what I do find is that if you can do like power naps and whatever, you actually work more efficiently after that. So that's a good thing, I think, which is not always easy to do in an office environment.
Yeah, definitely
and,
not.
Also, this kind of people just running over to your desk wanting something, interrupting your workflow. But then again, the counter here when you work from home is that everyone wants to schedule a fucking meeting with you every 5 minutes instead. So yeah, pros and cons.
Hi.
Yeah, well, same here. So yeah.
Or if not meetings, then calls. It's like, never mind. It's definitely at your service. Hi.
Yeah, it's kind of replacing the I'll come by your desk, like let's schedule a meeting.
Yeah, it's a bit easier when people are in the neighboring room and there is a misunderstanding, and then we have to clear it up and align our views, and this is what I think, this is why it would work, this is why it wouldn't work. Yeah, and then, or this is what I meant, and then I completely didn't mean that, sorry, I meant something else. So there are like a lot of things like that going on, and you don't really think of that when being in a normal situation. So there are a lot of things like that, but it teaches us a lot of things, I think. Teaches us patience, teaches us like time management, because you really, really have to think of your time this way, since half of the time is the discussions, how you should do your work, and the other half you do your work. Of course.
What half? You mean the third you do your work?
Yeah, that depends on the scheduled things, of course. But yeah, it's, you can learn probably a lot about yourself too. And I know it for a fact that there are people who go bonkers in this situation, and I'm not surprised about that because I used to be such person as well. I really couldn't imagine this happening, and me okay.
Yeah, I like
okay with
those memes that go around that like this quarantine. What? This is just my life. Now I have an excuse for it, kind of things.
Yeah, right.
If anyone needs pro tips, I'm right here. Just ask me anything about quarantine type life. I'm a pro.
Yeah, I don't.
And social distancing.
I specifically don't understand this. Like, I think most of men in my life, despite that I'm really an extrovert person and an outgoing person, most of them were like really couch potatoes, like completely sitting at home and introverts. And it's like, I don't know why this is. Maybe, I don't know, complimenting each other on a way or something.
I don't know. Look around. I have a studio. And upstairs I have a very nice kind of a coding station, as it were, or whatever you want to call it, and thing I can do renders with, and then across the hall back here, the server where I have all the graphics cards and stuff like that to do renders on. It's perfect.
I know. I'm not arguing with that. They certainly can keep one busy, and it's a good thing. It's excellent thing. It's just funny. So, yeah. And we have Bitin's request prepared, and he wants to hear Access Denied and Bobble.
Bobble, bobble.
would like to warn you that the song has ended.
I know the song. I've heard it before.
Do you? Okay. For some reason. My God.
We just panic changed all the cameras.
Panic
Like,
changed.
all of them.
It's just, I think it would be nice if once we are talking to someone, it wouldn't be like we are talking to a completely different direction and here is another camera. So that's why we started to set things up.
Yeah, we'll
I'd
sort that at
say.
some point, I think. But yeah, I think it might be better now. Yeah, that's a lot better, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
We should do this all the time because it's definitely a better angle.
Angle?
Not that we are doing television or anything, but you know. Not specifically because of that. Why is this so... Ah, my God. Yeah, never mind. It's okay. It's gonna be fine.
It's all good. Never mind. So, where were we?
At the moment, I'm a little confused. You can, by the way, a lot of people are chatting on IRC, so you can join.
Oh, I'm not on RC currently. Hold on.
You are
Let me
not.
sort that.
I am, but I have like one concern here that this white screen is just driving me crazy. I usually use IRC or whatever I can with a dark background because for some reason it is more resting for the eyes. But I
Yeah.
guess it depends on preference.
No color options on there?
I don't really see like anything. This is basically like there is an option. Adjust user interface hue. Oh. Oh well, that is at least good because you can make it like warmer. That's good.
Riveting radio right here. We are adjusting the warmth of an IRC window.
And letting the people know that dark background is consuming less energy, according to many people. I didn't do a study on that, but you know, if this is a possibility, why not save energy too? And on the other hand, it's way better for the eyes, for my eyes at least. But yeah, no, I don't see more options, but I will save this a little bit better. So I'm sorry, people, if I don't see everything going on the IRC. I will have a request for you, though, if later on you will have questions for Peter, because this very well might happen today. If you can reach out to me in private message on IRC, that's easier to follow than the channel conversation, I think.
Kind of scrolls by very quick.
Yeah. And I'm so happy that we do this show today because I slightly feel that I won't have that much voice tomorrow. So that's great. We picked the right date at least.
Yeah, we planned it very well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for my corona or whatever it is.
Corona.
Yeah. And I was so disappointed that it wasn't Boz. I thought that it was Boz. That's the super disappointment. So no way. So I think we should carry on with a song.
A song?
Yeah, people haven't woken up yet who want to have requests played, but I suppose that they will wake up. But today you have to keep in mind that the request hour will be probably the first hour because in the second 2 hours I can't guarantee anything. We will definitely focus on Peter Clarke, and as you might have heard, he has excellent tracks to show us as well. So that I certainly would prefer to be focused on his works, if possible. But what do we think?
We think a lot.
What do we think of... I think it will be requested today anyway. So sorry, people, if you will request it in the future. Just so for the people who will request this in the future, I already played it. This is definitely the winner remix of the last year, and I think that we have to make some space for this, because it's Defender of the Crown, the Elf's Story by Peter. And yeah, I think this is one of the reasons as well why he became the remixer of the year, amongst many others, because he did a couple of tracks last year. So here it comes.
In editsia vartara duen, alfa dar liena e fase kin finalfin. I aira dol, vider önuinu anor, sargin vanat, en das ju alfa nui, ti varas tronen. mandaron alinon, nugelang hen fideb ay nai dire dar. Nugol jua de natron don, tolen gur na balanor idedana. Karat vetuio amman, idirenele nagenin, Thina yamarudara, idien vielenir, fino fada herin, veginen.
Grandiose piece, I would say.
Yeah, and I never heard that one in the studio before, and there's a couple of places in there where there's the sub is really rumbling. I haven't even noticed that before.
Yeah, it all depends on what device you are listening, and you can always discover some new things.
Yeah.
That is so great. And Jason Parker just joined us and
Hello,
says...
Jason!
Hi. I hope that you are all safe, well, and calm. Well, we are calm, sort of safe as well. He brought home some sort of thing that climbed into my throat now, but...
Climbed into your throat and died?
Yeah, and he has no problems, and I didn't go out for 1 week. This is not fair. This is not fair. But other than that, we are fine. It's really okay. So we are working, and any one of you who works with IT and able to manage right now the work remotely, I guess we should be very grateful, because I heard that in other industries, some of them, like of course, hotels and tourism and
basically,
restaurants.
basically anyone who relies on human interaction.
Yeah, they are like, this is completely like insane sometimes what is going on there. And I have a few friends who work on that area, and it's not even the situation. It's like they have to handle the people going bonkers because, some of them said, actually several of them said, who is going out most to the street right now?
The hookers?
No, some of those folks that actually shouldn't. So many of the elderly folks, you would be surprised, even more than the youngsters right now. Or at least...
they can't miss their bingo nights, for God's sake.
But it's it's like it's a dangerous game. I think that they want to think of the future. They want to stockpile things up. But this is like, it's not a game, and it should be taken seriously, especially by them. But I heard it from two friends actually that they claimed back in Budapest that they see mostly the elderly folks on the street now, which is like a bit weird. But take care of yourself, people. This is just not a way to handle this situation. And of course, you don't have to panic or anything. You can remain calm, but it's like, seriously, for some people, it can be dangerous. For some people, we have to think of those people. So, yeah, that's it. But other than that, everything is all right around here. And soon we can welcome Peter Clarke on air. So, just a couple of more minutes, and some requests will be played.
Others will be ignored.
There might be today that some requests should remain ignored. I'm sorry about that, but we will see. We will see. So, I0 wants to hear The Human Race, made by DHS. So, can I start?
You can.
Okay.
While the intro is playing, I'm gonna just mention that Peter spoke about so many screens, so I'm gonna actually do a little round tour of the studio and the screens we have when the next song is playing.
Okay. Just slightly confusing the stream in the stream and you showing how many screens we have.
Yeah, screens and windows in those screens. Tabs and whatever.
Yeah, Tab 64 said that we should close the windows so Corona shouldn't get in. Well, it will get in even with that. So I guess, I suppose sooner or later. The point is right now that it should be later. So to spread the time frame, so not everyone and everything will just stop and we don't overload the healthcare system. That's the most important.
I'm just going to show that I've done my part over here by blocking the window. This is sealed.
Yeah, well, a little. Well, maybe it wouldn't be sealed enough against the flood, but it is somewhat sealed. You can say so. But Luna says that he just got the new Facebook UI and he had a hard time to find the chat. To tell you the truth, I have a hard time to find the chat with this too. Sometimes when I just go directly to the stream, because sometimes the chat is not showing up on the right side, and when you refresh the window especially, it's a bit confusing. But other than that, kudos for Facebook because they made the dark mode available. So
I'm just waiting for me to get it. I'm still on the bloody white one.
Yeah, I know. And there will be some sort of notification soon for you as well. That
hopefully
if
soon.
you want to try the new Facebook
yes!
UI.
Facebook, give me the dark mode now.
And sorry, not he, she, so my bad, absolutely my bad. So yeah, exactly, so it's coming. For those of you who don't know about it yet, it's certainly coming, but they usually spread around these updates around by time.
They stagger them.
Yeah, so I definitely admire this thing with the grayish, blackish improvement. And it's way more relaxing to look at it right now.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I'm just waiting for YouTube and the studio and all the behind-the-scenes kind of pages to actually do the dark mode as well. They're still all white.
Yeah.
Well, most of them at least. Still no response from Elman, so I'm guessing he's hard at work on that exclusive.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure that he will finish knowing him, so I'm not worried about that part. And since soon we can welcome our honored guest of today, I would say that let's do 2 more requests. What do you say?
That sounds just about right, I think.
Yep. And the first would be Dasse, and he wants to hear Madness by Gammasutra. And you might want to define which Madness you want to hear, because there are like 3 versions.
Mad Cow?
Not the Mad Cow. There's a high scores version, a sadness version, and malattia elettronika mix. This is what I have picked for now, supposing that maybe this is the one, but yeah, we will see. Ding. Okay. And
Ticka-ticka-ting.
yeah, Dasse said, well, at least he looks happy about this malattia elettronika mix, which he said matlekakia. That matletkakia, that sounds like a Finnish word.
Malattia.
Malattia, yeah. Is this like a Finnish?
Elettronika.
Yeah.
Is there really 2 T's in that one?
What?
Elettronika. Oh, I think that's Italian.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, because of the elettronika.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but the malattia could be really anything.
Yeah, exactly. Looks Finnish. I don't know the word, but looks Finnish.
He said. Anyway, we are back.
Hi.
Hi. And
how are you doing out there? Hope you're all okay.
Yeah, we really hope so. That you take care.
Right.
And you have an announcement to make.
Well, it's not much of an announcement. It's more of a correction. We won't have an exclusive. Well, we might have an exclusive, but not from Elman tonight. There was a bit of a misunderstanding. Timing-wise and all of that. I thought he had one for tonight's show, but it's for the next week's show. So we have an exclusive for next week, but not from Elman, at least on this show.
Not on this show, but from Elman maybe next week. So
Yes.
we will see. But he's working hard on something, and that always means a good thing.
Yes, and last time anyone did a remix of that was in 2006, I think it was. And it's the only one of its kind so far. So he will be doing the second version of that. And it's a very, very nice tune.
Excellent to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to hear that. So
Indeed, me too. I told him I'm eager. Give it to me!
give it to me, baby. Yep, almost like it. And since we approached the 9,
Malattia apparently means illness in Italian.
illness.
So a sick electronic mix or something.
And I'm just wondering here, I just charged my laptop to 100, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's at 28% right now.
What?
I don't know how I achieved that. It was like going on for an hour or so, and I'm starting to be afraid that soon I have to consider to get a new one. I mean, it would be about time, but...
Yeah, it's what, 6 years old or something?
Yes, it is. It still works nicely.
It does.
I hate to reconfigure everything that I work with. It's just...
but you don't need to with Macs, actually. You can do the time machine trick. So you do a time machine backup, and then on your new Mac, you just restore the time machine backup.
Oh, and then guess what? The new operating system that I usually don't update very often will just act like, this program is not working on this version anymore. So
yeah, well, sure. But at least you don't need to do the whole kind of reinstall everything thing.
Yeah, that is a good thing, I suppose. Yeah, I would hate that. But yeah, soon coming. But anyway, I'm still on this one and I like it, and I just don't want to get rid of it yet, even if
I like mine too.
The E key is already like a bit flexible and comes out sometimes.
Not a bit flexible. You are. That might be the understatement of the year. It's falling off.
Yeah, it is. I don't know why it's the E. Probably because my name starts with E.
You type your name so often.
In my language, it's a very oftenly used letter.
Yeah, in most languages, it actually is.
Yeah, Martin said, "Congratulations, your battery seems to have died." Oh my god. Peter said, with Max, you have to wait until the stores reopen. Well...
But didn't they actually reopen in Italy or something? No, in China. They reopened in China. or will very shortly reopen in China.
I will be
So
very responsible, and first I'm making some savings, and then I will
fly
allow...
to China and replace your Mac. Oh,
No, I
right.
will allow myself a new machine afterwards, because it's not happening anymore that I'm just hanging around, because at one point you have to do this in your life, I guess, and I realized that this is the point. So
Mhm.
yeah, you always have to count on incoming non-counted on things. Anyway, I would say that would be worth to continue right now with Lala's request. Lala has a little connection to Peter as well.
Yes, and Peter will tell you all about it when we talk to him right after this song.
Indeed, and the interesting thing about his request that, oh, Freud, he typed it as Tai-Pan, an ear movie. Sorry, Peter, I think he didn't mean it, but it's, yeah, so here comes Tai-Pan, an ear movie made by...
The painful ear massage from a Tai-Panian.
Yeah, an ear movie made by Peter from last year.
Ha!
Ha!
That was
You
a
say
song.
ha! That was a song, was
Yeah.
it?
It was the Thai massage, painful Thai massage song by Peter Clarke, who is with
Tai-Pan.
us,
Oh,
who
we
is
have to
with us
ask.
on
Yeah.
air.
We have to ask you about that. What do you think? Lala just mistyped this song.
No, brilliant. Hi, Lala. Hi, everybody. Hello, Ziona. Hello, Seghel.
Hello.
Hi. It's nice to meet you and see you like this as well.
Oh, wow, that's scary on that stream screen.
Don't get too scared.
It looks fine, doesn't it? I think it looks nice. That's good. You look great.
Yeah, and from now on, Slegon's duty is to take the questions and everything. Oh my god, my battery will go wrong. Just a minute, I need my cable here.
You can't believe this. I told Peter to charge
I'm
his
very prepared.
headphones yesterday, and you can't even charge your laptop.
Well, I did right before the show. It's just going wrong right now. I cannot help it. Anyway.
Oh, apparently we're clipping. Could you pull down the thingy? No, not that thingy. The one that is blinking red behind it there. That one, yes.
Yeah.
To the left, to the left, to the left, to the left, to the left. There we go. A little bit more.
Oh, that was
little
really
bit.
red.
Yes, that's better. Should be clipping now.
Yeah, we were waiting for a confirmation from others if we are still clipping. Thank you.
No, that's
That's really technical, isn't it? Pull down the thingy.
yes.
Yeah.
I like to go really technical
Yeah,
on
he
people.
is very specific with his requests. Anyway, he is. That's the fun part. But yeah. First of all, how do you feel today and generally about your 2 awards that you just won last week?
Good, really good. Didn't expect. No way did I think I would get 2 awards. I thought possibly 1. I thought I might stand a chance of getting 1. So to win 2,
okay.
I was amazing. Really, I really thought this year with 8-bit, with the Prague sessions and everything else that Glyn would dive in there. So I was amazed that Defender of the Crown beat his new Fire Lord. But to get Remixer of the Year is brilliant. Can't tell you, really, really good.
Yeah, I can totally imagine. But then it's good to know that at least one of them you saw coming. So it's what happened?
He fell off the screen. His duct tape is failing him. I might as well follow suit and do the same. I fell off the screen too, so we're equal.
Oh,
It's perfect.
you balanced it out from our end. Excellent.
I'm going to show you a secret. This is what's holding.
Oh,
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, it looks wide enough to keep it there.
It's just the heat. It unsticks after a while. I'm going to have to keep my eye on that. So,
Oh.
no problem.
No, I think you'll notice when it falls off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And you have such a super cool t-shirt. You have to show it to everyone.
Yeah, let me lean back and show everyone. Nerds rock.
Yay!
Rock.
Excellent. So, and you didn't see probably this interview coming either, right?
No, I was really surprised when you sort of PM'd me and said, "Do you want to do it?" But brilliant, yeah. And so obviously we've spoken a little over the last couple of days, just in preparation for it. But absolutely wouldn't have seen it coming. So a shock, but a nice one.
But you use Slay Radio at least, and now we know that you registered 7 years ago, right? No, 8 years ago. Sorry.
Yeah. You can embarrass me if you want to.
The same thing happened to her. She tried to register and couldn't figure out why. Then we realized she already registered back in 2005 or some shit.
Yeah, we sorted it in 2016. I don't know what I did in between, but...
just completely forgot from 2012 that I'd already registered. So obviously with you guys getting in touch, it was like, right, let's re-register. Let's register, not knowing that I already had done. So as we're talking, I'm just going to put more gaffer tape on this mobile phone.
Okay, that looked like toilet paper. Now it's such a trend of toilet paper.
No. There's no toilet paper left in the UK. It's all gone.
So you're hoarding gaffer tape instead? Is that you get like a Brazilian at the same time then?
You're certainly not gonna. It isn't going to achieve the desired effect, I don't think.
Oh my God! And what is the situation by you right now?
What with regard to
regarding to this entire corona and things. I have read one or two things right before the show, but I'm not sure how much you want to share. So
it's I think most people are taking it really seriously, like they should do. A lot of the things that you see on the BBC are empty streets, much less traffic, but there's still the same kind of craziness going on with people who are completely and utterly ignoring the warnings. Which tends to then make you think, is the spread really going to get cut down by that much? Is the government going to have to enforce almost martial law to keep people off the streets? I think a lot of it is just not knowing what's coming next, because there's obviously more stuff to come. I think probably the same is true in Sweden.
Yeah, it's we're in the early stages still, so people don't take it seriously because we're in the early stages, and they equate it to the flu. Which is very wrong on so many levels. And sure, there's a lot we don't know, which is kind of the scary bit of the whole thing, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of that going on over here as well. I think everywhere.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we will see how far we go.
Yeah, and if you're willing to talk about it, you have some reason for actually staying clear of all of that?
Sure. I'm under 12 weeks house arrest now. Basically.
That's what I was referring to, actually.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Mr.
No, it's okay. There's so many things to talk about regarding this topic that.
Yeah. For me, I had stem cell replacement last year. As part of a cancer treatment. So it's brilliant and really, really clever stuff in terms of what it does in rebooting your body. But the thing that it does, which is the downside to it, is it completely wipes out your immune system, and that needs then time to rebuild. And you've got to do crazy things like have all your baby injections again, because your body's completely forgotten all the immunities that you had. So for me, I'm pretty high risk. In fact, to be fair, I tick about 4 boxes. To be really honest, I shouldn't even be walking upright.
Is that why you're sitting down?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
But it's, I mean, for me, it's a case of just stay out of it. Hope. Just hope that my partner doesn't pick it up from anywhere. But then she's now on house arrest as well for 12 weeks after today. So assuming she's not infected already, which obviously nobody knows for about 5 to 7 days whether they are or they're not, things should be okay. But I'm positive. If I can get through the cancer, I can get through this.
Yeah, as long as you're not positive with the coronavirus, we're good.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, very true.
Absolutely.
And as a warm-up, I would say that there is a song that also was very popular last year. And it's also, if I remember correctly, requested by Lala as well. Of course it is. And since, well, we can talk about it even right now that you kind of start to hang around with Glyn Air Brown, right? So it's like we were both watching the stream from Prague at the same time.
on the last 2 days, and just got chatting a little bit in the window, and it sort of came out that maybe we should collaborate on something at some point. At which point Damien completely lost his trousers and started jumping up and down. I mean, it turns out, talking to Glenn, he lives an hour away from me only. So notwithstanding the coronavirus, really, really easy to get to one another if we wanted to. I'm presuming that the internet wasn't sufficient for some form of collaboration. We've spoken again a couple of times since, and probably, depending on when Corona ceases to be a danger, you'll probably come from. Once that is no longer a danger, you'll see something from Glenn and I as a collaboration.
So looking forward to that.
Excellent to hear. And last year you did a song which is named as Fire Lord Symphonic, a nod to Glenn. Would you say a few words about that before we play it?
Yes. That's probably one of the hardest things I've done. I joined the Remix 64 community probably around 2010, and became aware of Glenn's 2002 Fire Lord remix. And at the time, it blew me away. So, I mean, in 2002, when he first did it, it must have knocked people's socks off.
Oh, it certainly did.
For what was available then in terms of sample packs and quality. And let's be clear about it. That remix has been up there at the top of the all-time charts. Maybe not number one, but it's been up there for nearly 18 years. Well, maybe just 18 years now.
Yeah.
That takes some doing. So, that piece of music, I think, probably as much as any other, stands as a benchmark on Remix 64.
Oh, definitely.
And when it came out, it was a case of it was magic. And then just last year, Glenn released a new version of it, and everyone went potty about it and said, "Yeah, it's brilliant." And I loved it. I thought it was a really great new version. But I just had this small sadness inside me that sort of the old toy was going to get thrown in the cupboard and never played with again. And I didn't want that to happen. And a few people along the way had said that they really, really wanted to hear the 2002 version just with a bit more oomph behind it. So that was the mission. The mission was to really take Glenn's Fire Lord, pull it apart, and oh boy did it take some pulling apart. Lala was under the impression at one point that I'd contacted Glenn and I'd got the MIDI files from him.
And you didn't.
I didn't. I pulled it, literally pulled the thing apart by ear.
Even for Lala, that's something.
Then they basically just put the thing back together. It was about, probably 60 hours of listening over and over and over, just pulling the nuances out of it. And then about another 100 hours to put the thing back together.
Oh my God. Wow.
And you've then obviously got to put your own little twists in it, just to put your signature on it here and there. So I sort of updated the choirs. I just changed the ending slightly. There's a little bit in the middle that's my own addition, with just a little solo voice on it. Just did it to the highest possible quality I could do it from a sampling point of view and from a mastering point of view, and put it out there. And for a while, it was the all-time number one.
Yeah. So overtook Glenn's version.
I think it's still higher.
Oh, nice.
Let us check the charts now, and let's play the song. We will be back shortly in 5 minutes.
Ha.
Haha, yes, that was a very nice job because you are all-time third with this song right now on Remix 64, so congrats for that.
Thank you.
Really nice job that as well.
I suspect somebody's been on and voted quite recently because I think I looked at the all-time charts when I was sort of rehearsing for this interview just to get some ideas of numbers, and I was number 4. So somebody sneaked on there and put a few votes on that and moved up to number 3.
I think they might have actually heard the ROTY Awards and thought, who is this Peter Clarke? I must go and check what he's done. Oh, Firelord, this is brilliant.
Yeah, indeed. And adding the fact that Glyn also did a new version from 8-Bit Symphony, because that's the 8-Bit Symphony version, and guess what, it's on the 6th place, so that's kind of fun, because you are at the 3rd place with the tribute, so to speak. So
no pressure. When you do your co-op, it has to kind of outshine both of those.
The expectations are high now.
Well, here's a little thing. When I was in the latter stages of Defender of the Crown, when I was at sort of 2/3 done, maybe I had the last 2 pieces to just arrange and put together, I chatted back and forth with Lala a bit on email, and I uploaded the unfinished version on SoundCloud and just sent him a private link and just said, look, do you want to give this a listen? See what you think. Just give me some feedback. And he, bless him, back into till the end of the song, just little pointers, little suggestions. And he was, to put it in the terms that we've both used, he was a brilliant second set of ears. Mm-hmm. And anybody that's a remixer will know, if you work for long enough on a piece of music, after a while you stop hearing it. Slagon, you must know this.
Definitely.
You stop hearing the detail and you stop hearing certain things, and you've got to either walk away for a day or just at least walk away for a few hours, have a coffee, and just not, or go and listen to something else.
Yeah, sometimes I need to take a few days even because you get so numb to kind of the details of the thing. So.
Yeah.
Sure. So the brilliant thing was I could bounce it off this completely other person who I knew was going to give me decent feedback and sort of knew what they were talking about. And he refuses to call it a co-op because I suppose physically he didn't put anything into the tune himself. But his suggestions were brilliant. And a lot of them I implemented into the latter stages of Defender of the Crown. So the other little thing that's sort of not known, and I've not even said to you two guys yet, is I've chatted to Glyn back and two, and we will use Lala as a 3rd set of ears.
Ha ha ha! That's really honoring, and he has a question for you, by the way. Here, his question is about the old times. Can you tell us a story or two about how some of your 64 game tunes came about?
What can we talk about? Should we talk about Ocean Loader 3?
I guess
sounds like
we can.
A perfect start because loader and everything.
Loader and everything.
So working at Ocean, working in the same room as Martin Galway, we are not worthy. From the street to working with Martin Galway. To put this thing in context, I had a Commodore 64 really from quite early on, from sort of the very, very early basic text adventure games. And so when Ocean came along, and more importantly, the soundtracks of sort of Rob and Martin came along, the games took on it. They stepped up a big step, and obviously I played the games, I listened to the music, and so I knew the name Martin Galway very well, and through a guy who I was friendly with called Paul Hughes, or Paulie Hughes as he's known. Paul worked in the industry pretty much all his career, semi-retired now. Biggest contribution, he worked at Ocean. He developed the Fast Loader program, which is the stripy screen loader that you use to see on the side of the screen. Then he worked for a company down in Cheshire called Traveller's Tales, who produce all the Lego titles. So, I mean, he's won a BAFTA for the games as part of the team that developed the games. And I was friends with this guy, and he went to work at Ocean, and I got into Ocean through him. And ended up working in the same room as not just Martin Galway, but the Martin Galway. And there's a certain amount of pressure that comes with that as the new guy coming in.
Did you feel that way when you were working there? So, or back then it wasn't a thing yet?
You already knew about him, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And sort of through Zap64 magazine and other things, you sort of get a measure of the status that the guys got within the C64 community. So yeah, there was quite a bit of pressure. So I'd done a couple of things. I'd done Head Over Heels for Ocean, and it was okay. It got okay reviews, nothing to write home about. And you get to the point where you feel, I really need to do something here and make my own mark. So I started to work on an alternative Ocean loader. I did this thing in secret at home. I did not do it while I was in the office, because there was no way I was going to fail and it be known that I'd failed. It was a case of I'll develop it, I'll make sure it's absolutely what it needs to be, and then I'll unveil it, and took it in. And Gary Bracey, who was the sales arm of Ocean, and a couple of other guys, they went absolutely batshit about this. It was crazy. They loved it. It went on every single Ocean game for about, I don't know, 12 months, something like that. Everything had this loader on. And Martin was a bit grumpy about it, to say the least, but I mean, I was plenty smug. I was completely Mr. Smug about it. And sort of, I can never stand up in the community even these days and go that Martin completed a much wider body of work than I did at that time. But I've got that one feather I can put in my cap. There are 5 Ocean loaders out there, and Ocean Loader 3 seems to have stood the test of time, and certainly seems to stand up against the other 4, I would say. So there's a little something from the mid-80s.
Martin Galway was using a lot of the, you mentioned that you learned a lot. He was using a lot of kind of playing around with pulse width modulation and such to kind of create these textures in his SIDs. Did you use any of that, or the knowledge from that, when doing your stuff later on?
I think for me it was a delayed process. The strange thing is that and this is going to, I'll probably have hate mail for this, but I hated Martin's music and he hated mine. It was, and I've given this a lot. Now I've said that, I've given this a lot of thought afterwards. And I think all that it was he's a guy who goes for the sound first. So he will develop very little in terms of the arrangement of the music of what he's writing, and he'll focus absolutely and totally on the waveforms, the filtering, how it sounds, and it's almost as though the melody and everything else comes as an afterthought. Mm-hmm. Like if you completely flip that on its head, that's me.
Yeah, I know this. I know. Yeah. We are like that, actually. I'm completely on your side in this matter, and Sligon is on the other one.
Yeah, so she is you, and I'm Martin Galway in this relationship.
Oh, Alziona, don't worry. You will have one feather to put in your cap against Sligon at some point, just like I did. But if you can imagine we worked in quite a small office, and we worked with our backs to each other. And there was one synth in the room, and we both use the same synth to work bits and bobs out. But if you can imagine being able to hear, I mean, Martin, if you take a tune like Parallax, so you know the way that Parallax starts
Ding,
with
Ding,
yeah,
ding,
but
Ding.
it's not. It's and then the pitch wavers. So can you imagine somebody, when you've had that and someone's been adjusting the pitch ever so slightly each time they play it, and they've played it over and over and over again for 4 hours of the day.
That's how you make music anyway.
And I'm up the wall on the other side of the room, trying to crawl for the ceiling and find a way out. And meanwhile, on the other side of the room, I'm on the synth and I'm working out a melody, I'm working out a harmony, I'm thinking where the bass line's going to go, how do I get that note in, how do you... And all the other things, the problems that you had with the SID chip, with it only having 3 voices. Yeah, we would just absolutely chalk and cheese and lump together in a small room. I mean, we were very professional. There was no personal hatred between us. But artistically, we were. You couldn't have put 2 worse people together properly.
Oh, that's so funny.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that said, I learned so much from Martin in terms of the coding, how to write a good assembly language that used minimum bytes. How to make pieces of your tune repeat without having to write the notes twice. All the little tricks that help you to fit the music into 8K on a Commodore 64. Really valuable stuff. And also, we collaborated a little bit for a very short while when we were working on what's known as the 4th channel. So I know a lot of guys will probably already know what it is and how it's done. But I mean, if you feel it's appropriate, I'll talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you think of playing a SID of yours? Which, well, right now we talked about Ocean Loader 3 anyway. So, yeah, how would you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm really laid back about anything. You play what you want.
Yeah,
I'm cool with it all.
Yeah, play that feather.
I just have one request.
Yes.
Don't play Parallax.
No, I promise we won't. Not on this show.
Well, it's like, what, 16 minutes long as well? So.
Your wish is our command for today. Okay, so Ocean Loader 3, and we will continue talking afterwards. Egon.
Yes, I know.
We are
I
on air.
always do that.
Yes, I know you do that. I live with you for a while now.
Oh, your camera is falling off.
Oh yeah, just in time. As you should. So yeah, we have heard Ocean Loader 3, the original synth made by you. And this was also a great lesson for those that weren't familiar, because I think there are a lot of people, even happens with me sometimes, that I know the melody in and out, and it just doesn't occur to my mind, oh, this was made by him. My God, right. So it's like, it's sometimes you have to realize these things, like re-realize them, even if they were on your mind. So, So yeah, let's get back to the things where we were at. And Martin, as we saw it, it's also it was made not made, but well, through Martin's player, kind of.
No, Ocean Loader. Hang on, Ocean Loader 3. What was it done with? Yes, it was done with Martin's player.
Yeah,
yes, it was.
yeah.
Like I say, in the early days, even very first sort of projects at Ocean, I developed them in Electrosound. When I first went into Ocean, I was aware what 6502 machine language was. I knew what assembly language was, but I'd never programmed. So my first 3 months at Ocean was this massively steep learning curve. So it was learn assembly language, learn Martin's play routine, and then learn how to write music in hexadecimal numbers rather than using Electrosound that I had been using up to that time, and which is very much like the Roland TR drum machines to program. Really, really similarly, which is why I took to Electrosound so quickly, really, in the early 80s. Another thing that Paulie Hughes did in the early 80s, we met in a computer shop in Wigan, in the UK. I used to go and buy computer games in there, and he used to go and buy computer games in there. And he wanted to be a programmer, and I wanted to write music for computer games. And we just bumped into one another one day and talked. And over the course of time, we became friends. And he recommended Electrosound to me and said, "You really should try this, man. It's good." And it completely unlocked the Commodore 64 and the SID chip. It was really, really just an epiphany. It was a light bulb moment for me. I can't tell you what a difference it made. And pretty much all of the software creation tunes, so tunes like Gunstar and Kinetic, they were all done on Electrosound. And then you literally save the file out, tweak a few bytes in the save file, and put it into the program. And it was bloated. It was obese in terms of size, so you could only ever use the save file from it, the data. And Paulie Hughes originally wrote the player for the Electrosound files, but I'm pretty certain he gave that to Stephen Ruddy at Software Creations, so that Software Creations could use my Electrosound files as well for the soundtracks for their games. But most of the stuff after I joined Ocean, once those 3 months were up, I completely rewrote, well, not completely, but it significantly rewrote parts of Martin's player to suit more what I was doing.
Did you rewrite the way the sounds are, the actual player or the editor, or which parts?
I rewrote a lot of the stuff within the way that you wrote stuff at Ocean was on with two machines. So obviously everything was destined for a Commodore 64, but you wrote on a Commodore 128, and it had a synchronized cable that went down to a 64. So you basically wrote in assembly language, and at assembly time, once the machine assembled, it shot all the data down the sync cable into the 64 and played it back in the 64. And if it crashed, no problem, reset the 64, your data is still safe in the 128. and that was known with the routine that was in the C128. That was known as the ODS, the Ocean Development System.
Wow.
And everybody at Ocean, apart from maybe the graphics guys, worked on that system. The programmers, the coders, everybody writing sort of game content and the outside code of the game. So the routines, the runtime stuff, they all worked on that system.
Oh, that's nice.
So cool. Nice.
So
those things have happened like in the early years. It's like some of us obviously don't even know about the details of this because it's, I guess some of us joined later. But I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of you out there who actually remember some routines and ways how you created these things. It's just so interesting to listen to it.
I think the other thing that used to happen with the 8-bit machines, and it's no longer, it's absolutely no longer used now, is the way that stuff gets programmed now. Everything nowadays with modern languages is programmed in a very modular sense. So a module will get written so that the program can do certain things, and one person can write one module and the other person will write another module. And as regards to things like the addressing within it, where you're going to send the command to, it's all just done with labels, which is called relative addressing. So everything is just addressed relatively, and then when it's put together, it's only once the program gets compiled that relative addressing becomes absolute. Within the Commodore 64, you literally learnt the architecture of the machine. You knew where all the addresses were, and those addresses were never going to change because you only had 64 kilobytes. So everybody addressed everything absolutely. You knew what address the sound chip was at, you knew what address the graphics chips were at, and you always programmed absolutely for the values. And that's altered dramatically now. And you did top-down programming, so you basically started at the beginning and you programmed right through to the end. And nowadays, obviously, that is absolutely not the case. You can write a module that's halfway down the programming chain and develop that first and see if it works on its own. You can develop the end and then develop the beginning. So there's a lot of things that have changed in the way that the backroom programming is done. Much of the storyboarding is still the same. And I mean, the other thing I think back then was you never ever saw anything of the game before you wrote the music.
Yeah, so you got the storyboard for this type of music, or you had some sort of story at least, or was it just do whatever, we need music, we need 3 pieces of music, or
it varied depending on the time of year. As far as Ocean were concerned anyway, which is the sort of direct thing I can talk about. At the quieter times of year, you would get a much more generous brief about what they wanted and how they wanted it, and you maybe had a little bit more time, and you could, while you were in the process of developing the music, you could maybe have a wander through and say to some of the graphics guys, show me some of what you're working on, what's it going to look like.
So get a sense of the mood or something.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But towards Christmas, no chance. At Christmas, you were a sausage machine. You literally were on 4 projects or something. And those 3 months to develop a piece of music earlier in the year, that became a month, sometimes 3 weeks. And you had 3 on the go. And it was amazingly, well, just ridiculous. When you went home on the winter nights, you really felt, if you worked properly, you felt drained. And to be fair, I think that was the main thing which helped or made me make the decision to stop working for Ocean in-house, to stop being employed as a musician, and to become freelance. Was just to get some of that pressure off and get some of that time back.
Have you been freelance since then, or?
No, not well. Certainly not in terms of computer games. I've worked on a lot of different kinds of music in the time since Ocean. I've probably had a blank period completely from about 1988 until probably pretty much the end of the 90s, where the only music I was doing, well, I'm saying the only music I was doing, I was in a band, I would be recording and I would be in a band, but nothing to do with computers or game consoles or anything like that. I've sort of always kept abreast of the technology, and that applies in the music world as well. And I like technology. I like using technology. I love the way that it can make you achieve things that you could never dream of achieving.
I would love to hear more about your guitar and the setup you have with the kind of modular guitar and amp setup you have. After we play a song.
Yeah, we'll get to it. And Martin asked if you keep contact with Martin still. The other Martin asked, Martin Land.
I'll answer a little bit with more detail. I did answer briefly and just said Martin went to America. I lost touch after he went to America. I'll be honest, we never had the kind of relationship where we were ever going to keep in touch after we stopped working together. I was never going to be invited to any reunion that he was at, and vice versa. We suffered each other, tolerated each other in the most professional way that we could. Yeah, so we were never soulmates.
Yeah, so if we have an interview with him, would he say the same thing about you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just checking.
Absolutely. Yeah. You'd say, how do you feel about working with Peter Clarke? And he'd go, who?
Well, I guess your name might still come up regarding several known songs, and one of them would be Bobble. So how about playing another classic? And then after that we will go like forward in time a little bit, and Seghel can also ask you all about the guitars and the setup.
Yeah, indeed. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, this was Bobble, a bit short, but yeah, at least this subtune, because it has 12 subtunes, and too bad for me that I don't know them by heart. I mean, I know the tunes, but not the order, so would need a bit of research to play the proper subtunes out of a 12 subtune SID, right? Do you remember them, by the way, by heart?
Pretty. I think I put 3 or 5 of them into a remix that I did. So I can remember some of them. Bobble was probably the piece of music I worked the hardest on. believe it or not, out of all the SIDs that I ever did, Bubble Bobble was the one that got the most effort. I think mainly because it was for Software Creations, and they were only a new little company, and they'd only really been offered contracts up to that point for budget games. And so Bubble Bobble was massive. It was an arcade conversion. It was a massive arcade conversion in terms of its potential for sales. So it needed to be really, really good. And I was aware of that. So the mission for me was to make it sound as much like the original as I could, but obviously with the SID twist on it. And trying to get it to feel like the original, because the timing isn't strict on the arcade game. The timing varies in it, and but the varied timing suits the game really, really well. So trying to capture that and get that into a SID soundtrack was a real challenge. And with regard to what I was saying about maybe 3 months to develop a tune, I took the whole 3 months with that one.
Oh, wow.
I made sure, obviously the main tune is the one that everybody knows, the main in-game sub-tune. But it was concentrated on all of them with the same amount of effort, and I got a chance to see the arcade game firsthand in, should we call it, debug mode at Software Creations office. They had an arcade machine of Bubble Bobble in there, because obviously Steve Ruddy needed to pull the thing apart from the point of view of the levels, what level went into what, where the secret levels were. And in truth, the game on the C64 is not quite the same as the arcade game. There are some significant differences in it. But he did he used software sprites. It was an amazing job that he did on it. And I think the music stands up as well against the arcade version. But that's probably the piece of music I worked the hardest on, and took the full 3 months to develop that piece of music, although those pieces of music that are in there.
Great. And what you could tell us about the remix that you did, because you did a Philharmonica remix. And,
sure, yeah.
If you put the most effort into this tune, maybe was the remix, how challenging it was?
It was hard because you do forget, even though the thought might be, oh well, you did the original SID, you must remember it.
I can't even remember half of the SIDs I've actually done. Sure.
Your memory becomes fogged. You don't remember. It's so in some ways you're learning it again from scratch.
Did you learn that when you went back and listened to them to do the remix, that you found new stuff in there that you didn't think about back then?
There were one or two little bits within it that came back to memory. So you listen and go, how the hell has he done that?
Oh wait, it's me.
It was me, yeah. But you do kind of remember. How you did it and what you did with it. Even though, to be perfectly frank, the way that was written on the SID has got no relation whatsoever to the way that I wrote it all those years later in a digital audio workstation. It's totally different.
I was thinking more musically that you thought that if you go back to something you did back then, you kind of, because you're so limited in what you do, you have to create this kind of a soundscape, so to speak, on this limited edition of a sound interface. And then when you listen back to it years later, I noticed a few things that I did back on my SIDs that harmonically just gelled in a weird way that I didn't even notice back then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably too much. I'm all about the notes, where you put them and how long they last. I'm all about the melody, the harmony. It's probably the strongest thing. Looking at reviews and listening to people's feedback on my stuff, that's what comes back to me time and time again. So I'm not the sort of I might come across as fairly geeky about some stuff, but I'm really not a synth geek. I don't spend days finding sounds, and I get criticised for that by parts of the community who obviously do spend days finding sounds. The Martin Galways of the community.
I'm going to play parts of this. If we ever do an interview with Martin Galway, I'm going to play parts of this interview to him. That's going to be fun.
I think the thing that you do is you when you remix, for me anyway, when you remix, because all the handcuffs are off, because you're not restricted in any way at all. You must. I think you remain faithful to what was there originally, at least in some ways.
Yeah.
And that is a restriction in some senses. But the soundscape is completely open. There's no limits. And also the ability to be able to, for instance, put in incidental chords that were never there in the original, because you only had 3 notes.
Yeah.
And the way that you can build from one chord to another chord with movement, which you never had that degree of subtlety with the 3-voice synthesizer. So that's a joy. That's an absolute pleasure. Somebody asked me in an interview somewhere else when you're about remixing, about revisiting, and they said, is it in any way improving on what you did? And I said, yeah, in some ways it feels like unfinished business. That you go back and for some of the SIDs that I did, you think, at the time you think, if only I could do this, if only I could do that. And for me, at the same time I was writing SID music, I had synthesizers and other instruments, and I don't know if anybody else remembers it, a Tascam 244 Porter Studio 4-track cassette.
Yeah, I remember, or rather, I remember the name of it, but I can't remember the device.
So you were basically able to record 4 separate tracks of music onto a cassette tape. You could mix between the 4-track, or bounce to be precise. The quality by today's standards was absolutely awful. But you had a recording studio in your house on a 4-track machine, and if you had other instruments, well, hey, away you went. So that side of my music was going on as well, as to the side of the SID stuff that I was doing. So I did feel the limitations of the SID chip against this other music that I was producing and performing.
And have you considered back then that you ever will be able to do these remixes like out of those originals?
No, I don't. I mean, I don't think at the time that you think your music is going to end up probably anywhere other than in the bargain bin. You just think I'm doing this job, that this game will have a shelf life for 6 months if you're lucky, for a real blockbuster, maybe 12, and that will be it. To me, it was it was something I sort of stopped doing in 1988 and never really thought about it again. It was really just something that I did as a musician.
And now there are people saying we are not worth it.
Well, it's 1998 when Chris Abbott contacted me about the original Back in Time. It was a complete shock to think that somebody wanted to put a piece of computer music onto a CD and an LP. And the first time that I could say in my life, hey, I'm on vinyl.
That's nice.
Not everyone can say, hey, I'm on vinyl. But it was a really weird thing, really weird thing. Never thought about it. No, didn't think there would be any longevity to it at the time. Obviously did the best that you could with what you got at the time. Wanted to get good reviews in the magazines. Wanted to be well regarded in the field that I was working in, just like anybody does in any field that they work in. You want to be well regarded in the field that you work in. But beyond that, I never thought. It's a little bit like when you're learning to drive, you tend to think to yourself, I want to be able to drive. I don't want anybody in the car with me. I just want to be able to get in the car and go out on my own and drive. I don't think you really think at that point, I want to be a high-speed traffic cop. Or I want to,
Right, okay, yeah.
or I'm going to be a Formula One racing driver.
I always thought that, but I still don't have a driver's license, nor does she.
Yeah, we are just out of scope in that matter. But yeah, 27 years later, yet you decided to remix your Bobble in a Philharmonic version. Or, well, it's called Bobble Philharmonica, right? So I guess it would be interesting to listen, especially like after the original.
Okay, go for it. Let's give it some ear room.
Oh, okay. Bobble Philharmonica. And we are back. So, Lala commented on the IRC channel, how many hours I spent recording your tunes and Gary's tune onto cassette tapes just so I could listen to them once the C64 was off. Yeah, some people did that.
Yeah.
Some people,
obviously.
Yeah, some people did MP3s later on of SIDs as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, each one of us did some sort of things. It has had to be available on your portable player, so that was important.
Yep.
And in your track collection. But yeah.
Have you heard about that phenomenon, by the way? That people recorded SIDs onto cassettes and listened to them on their Walkman?
Probably wasn't aware of it when it was happening. Obviously, I'm aware of it since, with speaking to you, with speaking to Lala, and I'm aware that other people did it.
Yeah.
I probably wasn't aware of it at the time, to be honest with you.
Pretty much everyone we have spoken to have done it, including myself.
Right.
Just walking around in school and listening to these. And back then I was a hard rocker, obviously, as you were. So they were, are you listening to something new and cool? Yeah, I am, actually. This is a cool SID. Here you go. Have a listen. And they go, what the fuck is this?
Almost like drug dealing SIDs.
Yeah, exactly. But pretty much everyone we've spoken to have actually done that at some point. So it was a big thing.
Wow, right.
Right? All those weirdos around.
No. You got, it's somebody discovering something for the not for the first time. I'm aware of it, obviously, speaking to Lala. But I mean, it's something which is... I suppose it shouldn't be surprising to me, but in some ways it's just wow. You walk around listening to my little tunes that I made for games. And you were trading them back and to behind the bike shed, going, "Here's one for you. There's one for you."
Yep.
Generally, when in your life you started to be involved with music, I would be interested if you had any studies, or did you do like always only as a hobby, or
no formal training. I don't read music. I wasn't trained in any instruments.
Okay.
I grew up listening to a really, really wide range of music. Nobody else in my family is musical in the slightest. There are members of my family that cannot carry a tune in a bucket. I'm from a non-musical family, so I'm a real anomaly, really, in that sense. But I always heard music in my head polyphonically. So I always heard all the notes in my head, and I've only really discovered as I've grown that not everybody does.
Uh-huh.
I don't.
Some people just hear the melody.
Yeah. Or the chord. Not the individual notes.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I always, I don't know whether that's because at a very young age, I listened to a lot of classical music, and maybe listening to that kind of music where you are pulling it apart with your ears as you're listening to it, maybe that helped. I don't know. But it wasn't just classical. I grew up listening to T-Rex, David Bowie, Deep Purple,
jazz.
Zeppelin. I never listened to jazz growing up. No, I listened to blues, pop, rock.
Any genres that you hate or can't stand?
I'm really ashamed of this. I hate rap. I'm a muso, so and I'm a composer. So I should be open to all genres of music. I really can't get on with rap. It's just poetry to drums.
Well, it's the least melodic
bass line.
thing. It's like there are very basic melodies or bass going on in the background, and I guess it's not really melody oriented, so that might be one of the reasons why.
It's a Martin Galway tune.
Poor sure Hugh comes up like all the time this evening. If once he will listen to this.
We really shouldn't turn this into the Bash Martin show.
No. That's actually not bashing Martin in a way, because the way he looks into the detail of how sound works is why I think he's so great at doing things his way, which gels very badly with the way you do things, and that's the only difference, I think.
It's, I mean, I suspect we will both remember that. We might remember it slightly differently. He may be kinder, he may be crueler, I don't know. But I mean, yeah, ask him. You ask it. I got no problem with it. I mean, like I said, the positive I will say that came out of it. I came out of Ocean Software knowing so much more than I knew going in, and whether he likes it or not, much of that is down to Martin. So I've got to say that absolutely. The artistic difference is, well, you're always going to get those anyway. You put me and Seghel together, you may get the same friction between us. But I mean, yeah, it's. I think the other thing is as well, when you're young, you've got more rough edges on you. As you grow older, you get the rough edges knocked off. You become smoother, you become mellower. The little stuff doesn't bother you as much anymore.
True, yeah. Indeed. And Martin says, Martin Land, hey, you're both great, Martin and Peter, in your individual ways. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Completely agree. And talking about music and bands, somewhere down the line, which I almost started the show with, but I definitely was lining up in my head you think the world revolves around you, because that's a good kickstart for a show. Right now it does anyway, so that is excellent. So somewhere down the line you have this song and you are the one singing in it.
Yep.
And it's definitely like your music, as we listened through all your tracks, it's very, very melody oriented, I can tell you that, and I can totally relate to it. And I don't know what Seghel thought, because he didn't share that much of his opinion yet, but you can.
I grew up on this type of music, like the softer rock type stuff, prog rock and all that. I grew up on that shit, and then I discovered the harder kind of rockier stuff like Kiss.
Harder.
The greatest band the hottest band in the world, Kiss. That sort of thing, you know. Not that by comparison to today's music, it's hard at all. But I grew up on the softer rock kind of stuff, so I love it.
So
and you're doing really, really well on your tracks there. I love them. They're really nice.
We will have a couple of questions like after this song, I think, because
I'm going to ask you about your guitar and your setup with that,
and I'm going to ask you about everything else. So let's play this.
I lost the game. But by the way, let me say, I never wanted to play. Seems crazy now. It took so long to take a bow and leave the stage. The chance to write a different page. Well, you can think you've won, that you stole the show, but you'll never know what you let go. And somewhere down the line, you're gonna see a sign that tells you had more than you realized, but you never ever compromised. moving on. It's plain to see you don't agree. I can see in your eyes. It's a look you can't disguise. No guarantees, but I can sail across the seas. Don't worry now, we've always found a way somehow. Well, you can feel the worst like I know you will, and paralyze yourself until somewhere down the line you're gonna see a sign that tells you things have changed, but you're still alright. Up ahead I see a light. Why don't you come along? I'm moving on. I see you still behaving the same old way, thinking I'll come crawling back someday. But somewhere down the line, you're gonna see the sign that tells you you've used up every chance you had. Now I'm walking and I don't feel sad. I could go on and on, but I'm already gone. Yeah, but it is fine. Somewhere down the line.
We're going on air now-ish.
I hate to disappoint you, it already happened.
I know. I can see that.
Can you, by any chance? That was... No, it's mind-blowing. It's really... I really resonate with this type of music, so I totally admire this. And you did everything with this song, like everything. Like literally... Shh.
I can't remember the name of that song, but it reminded me of it.
I think another musician is jealous and doesn't want to hear my answer. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, me from start to finish. So obviously produced the backtrack to begin with, and really just my process is sort of to put the basics down, get the bass and the drums and the rhythm pieces down, and then add the guitar parts to it. And then obviously once you've got that, I tend to then get a master track and put that master track as a waveform, as a wave file in the top of the DAW, and then use the DAW for vocals only and start recording them, layer them if I need to. Of the tracks which you're going to play tonight, the four original, you played one of the tracks you're going to play tonight. Two you've played. There's not really that much vocal layering in them. In some of the cover versions that I've done of other songs, which unfortunately for broadcast copyright reasons,
I regret that so much.
We can't put any of those in. But what I might do is I might put a SoundCloud link in Facebook towards the end, so that if people want to have a listen to any of the cover versions,
that would be very nice.
There's a few ELO songs in there, and feel free to have a listen and comment and tell me what you think. But vocal layering has been something that I've really, really enjoyed doing from a recording point of view. And with ELO and 10cc and some of the other bands, you've really got to do that. Put the vocals on, layer them down, get 3, sometimes 5-part harmonies down on a song. And with 10cc, there's so much fading in and out of vocals that goes on, and it's great fun trying to copy that. And obviously nowadays, in the digital environment, if you've got a decent PC with a reasonable amount of RAM, you can run a DAW and you can absolutely do all that.
Do you do on your vocals, when you do those harmonies and such, do you use anything to kind of correct the timing and whatnot to match with the other tracks, or do you just redo the takes until they are perfect, basically?
I've not got perfect pitch, surprisingly. Not many people have. So I do use pitch correction software on it. I try to be gentle with it. So the other thing I think is, if you're miles out on the pitch and you use pitch correction to correct it, it's much more noticeable.
Yeah.
The closer you can actually get to the true pitch, it's just a little tweak in the pitch correction to put it bang on. You don't always need to do that with lead vocals, but with harmonies, it's important for the harmonies to blend. And sometimes when you blend the harmonies right, they just ring. There's just an extra dimension to them when all those notes are absolutely perfectly in pitch. So that I do use pitch correction, absolutely. But I think that's again yet another tool that's there. You absolutely use it if you want to present what you're doing in the best possible way. We
do have a bunch of musicians and such that listen. So what kind of tools are you using? The built-in tools in your DAW, or like Melodyne or something? Yeah,
I use Melodyne 4. I think it's really easy to use. I'll tell you what is really good, and when it starts to get a bit more a bit further down in price, I'll probably jump on it. It's a program called Revoice, Revoice Pro, a 64-bit version of that. Once that drops a little bit in price, I'll probably jump all over that as well, because that apparently for doubling vocals and thickening them up is really good. So yeah, I mean that's something that I would use. I tend to use Reaper by Kokos. That's my chosen weapon. That's my weapon of choice for DAW. I picked it initially because at the time it was the only 64-bit DAW on PC, and I had been using Reason, and I'd shouted out all over Remix 64 about it. This is wonderful. Everyone needs to use it. It's so brilliant. And then discovered if you're running a 64-bit machine and you cross a 32-bit barrier, the thing crashes like nothing on earth. I had blue screen of death twice with it. It's so bad. And obviously, when you're working with big samples, you're very quickly going to cross that sort of 32-bit. That 32-bit. It's roughly a quarter of your RAM if you've got 32 gig of RAM like I have. So once you cross that 8 gig. Bang, down it goes. It can't handle anymore. Also, if you're very close to that 8 gig barrier, it sometimes will not reload a track you've worked on. You work on a track, you save it, you try and reload it, and it goes, no, out of memory, can't do it.
Oh, shit.
So I got off that and I thought, right, I need something that I've got 32 gig here. I want to use 32 gig. So Reaper was the choice. I use Contact like most other people do for holding VSTs. I love the. If that's it, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to I don't really know what my favourite VSTs are that I use, so I'm just going to fire up Contact 5 just quickly on my screen.
Contact 5 is a VST instrument that loads sample libraries.
Yeah. And in Contact 5, just quickly, I'll tell you some of the ones that have gone into my remixes. Cinematic strings. I just wanted to get down to. I use pretty much any remix of mine, and you'll find the Contact Factory library, something from that in it. Most of I use the Abbey Road drums, sample packs. Use the modern drum kit a lot. Sometimes use the 80s drum kit. That's a really, really good sample pack. It's got a lot of stadium drum kits in it, so you want to get that really big rock drum kit sound. I tend to use that. There is an absolutely beautiful Rickenbacker bass.
Oh yes, that is so beautiful. It's still one of the Scarby and the Rickenbacker are among the best basses I've heard.
Yeah.
No matter which library you choose, those are still the most beautiful.
So I mean, when I first started in bands, bass was the first instrument I played in bands. I used to play a Rickenbacker copy.
Like me with my guitar copies.
But I love that. I love that bass. And all the other guys, the guitarists especially, what are you playing that plank for? But I loved it. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. A few synth packages. I've got a Yamaha Motif XF package, Roland D50 package, JD50 package, and I've got a couple of guitar packages. Just sometimes I use mainly for fills and sometimes for acoustic fills. Which is when I'm working and I'm working at a rate of knots, sometimes it's just easier to throw in a run of notes off a VST rather than get the acoustic out, mic it up, set it all up, and actually play it on an acoustic. But most of the guitar stuff, where I can, I will throw it in as a real guitar recording. I mean, probably like most guys who are on here are using VSTs. I'm using probably the most common VSTs that people are using, and if I'm not using the exact same ones, I bet you I'm using exactly the same type of VSTs.
Oh yeah, definitely. That whole list is like the rundown of everything everyone uses.
Yeah. So.
And speaking of, sorry.
But the one thing I did want to ask you about is your actual guitar. Because I had never heard about this Line 6 thing before. It was just, did you spot, he sent me a picture of his guitar and then asked, did you spot anything unusual with it? Yeah, I did, but I thought it's like half acoustic guitar, but it's not. So could you explain this guitar and amp thing that you have there on the guitars?
Some of you guys will already know this, but Line 6 Variax guitars are guitar modelling guitars. So essentially what they do is that they electronically model other guitar models. 12 years ago, no more, 18 years ago, I got my first Variax, which can emulate 26 different guitars. Literally by twisting the back knob on the guitar. So I have a all pickup copy emulation model of a 59 Strat. There's a 57 Telecaster in there. There's a 59 Les Paul Junior, Les Paul 355, Rickenbacker 6-string, Rickenbacker 12-string, and then there's acoustic guitars, 6-string, 12-string, dobro. There is a sitar, there's a banjo in there, and they're just absolutely awesome emulations. Wow. Purists will poo-poo them. People with the money to buy American Fender Strats and Les Pauls will say they are crap. Wouldn't touch them with a barge pole. But it's elitism. I swear, once you put these things into a mix, you've got absolutely no clue that it's not the real deal. I think for me, the reason why I went this route, and I also now own a Line 6 Firehawk combo, which is an amplifier modeling amplifier. So what the guitars do for guitars, the amp does for amps. So if the band I'm in decide we're going to do a status quo tune, I need a Fender Telecaster back pickup. It needs to be through a Vox AC30, exactly the same as Francis Rossi would do. and you can just dial the guitar into the guitar, dial the amp into the amp, and dial the effects in. And it is essentially just something that's on a foot switch. So you've got a floorboard with a couple of rows of switches on it, and you can literally call up any guitar, amp, and effects combination. Bang!
Yeah, and you can do the intermission parts with the same guitar, no need to switch and all of that.
Correct.
It's very quick.
Crazy.
That's it. We used to, example, we used to do the song Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty. And all the way through, if you're playing rhythm, you really need to be playing it on something like a 12-string acoustic guitar all the way through. Anybody that knows the song is after the saxophone is what everybody knows, but towards the end there's a blistering lead break on a Les Paul on a back pickup. But you can literally with one switch from emulating a 12-string guitar through a full range flat response amplifier. And in one click, you can be on a Les Paul coming through a Marshall Plex back pickup, screaming its nuts off, playing this lead break, and at the end, one more click again, and you're back on the 12-string acoustic. So for gigging in a band that did a real range of numbers, the tools are fantastic, and I don't need to carry more than one guitar. It's superb from that point of view.
I would be curious to see what Jarle from Fast Loaders would think about this.
Oh, that would be nice.
Be so interesting to see what he would think about trying this on stage, because he has a couple of guitars when he does a live set, and see just try it on and see what happens, basically. If it sounds right and all that, and it's playable, the strings are nice, the neck is nice, all of that. Then it would be interesting to see what he has to say about that.
Indeed.
Sure.
And I think it's the time shouldn't spend like we don't wait or didn't play your own compositions, and we still have like work in progresses as well. And oh my god, it's already 10:45. 10:45.
We have 15 minutes to go.
Oh my god, no! It's maybe this night it won't happen, but I would say that should we go ballad a bit?
I think that sounds great.
That sounds like a good idea, as you would say. And would we take the long road or the lonely road?
Lonely Road is the ballad.
Yeah.
And long road is a bit more upbeat.
Yeah, right. And the title similarities was actually bothering me. I knew that we are going to the ballad. So let us go to the lonely road for a little while.
Through the streetlights' yellow, lonely glow, past all these towns I've come to know. I changed the station on the radio. Seems I've spent a lifetime on the road. Don't get me wrong, this path I've chosen takes me to a place my heart belongs. Another 100 miles along the highway, another place to play my songs. This lonely road brings me home each night. This lonely road is all I know. Town we once called home. I hadn't been there in a while. so long since you were there with me. Most of all, I miss your smile. But don't get me wrong, I know I was the one who turned away. Someone caught your eye and you were gone. Another 100 miles along the highway. You left me here to face this road alone. This lonely road that took you away from me. This lonely road is all I know. And you'll always be a part of me. This lonely road. This lonely road. If you'd aspire to do what I do, perhaps you'd even take my place. The chance to stand here in the spotlight and maybe catch the dreams you chase. Then don't get me wrong, there's a price to pay. Sacrifice to live your life this way. Another 100 miles along the highway. Another town, another chance to play. This lonely road that brings me home each night. This lonely road is all I know. And it's always been a part of me. This lonely road. This lonely road. This lonely road.
More.
Bom, ba-dum.
So lovely. It's just a complete hit of a. It sounds like a. I'm sorry, I have to switch off the thing because it started to play the next one. Yay! And yeah, since it's a cover, we have to stop. Unfortunately, this is all that I could show you. Exclusive 1 second
Strings.
preview of the Mr. Blue Sky cover. That's such a pity that we cannot play it. I just
Don't
don't
play
like
it. Don't.
Ah.
Oh.
Duct tape mishap.
Oh no!
But you made it
And we're
work
back
again.
in the room.
That's an interesting setup you have there with the camera as well. Could you explain what you did there? Because that's an interesting story in and of itself.
I didn't. I thought I had a webcam. I didn't have a webcam, so I went online and found out how you hack your mobile phone to make your mobile phone into a webcam. Needs must.
We're very happy that you did.
Yeah,
stick
it
that
makes
down
things
properly.
so much better. Yeah. And Top 64 had a good question here. What made you come back to the 64 thing of music? Was it an own decision to see what was years ago and is now?
Again, I think I became aware of the remix scene with Chris Abbott doing the original Back in Time and contacting me, obviously, to get my blessing to do a cover of Ocean Loader 3, which I obviously had no problem with whatsoever. And as I say, yippee, I'm on vinyl, I'm on CD. But I never really sort of slotted back into the scene at that point. It got to 2010. And it was, I can't honestly tell you what the trigger was for sort of going to the Remix 64 website or starting to listen to remixes, but that was when I did it. I can't remember that, to answer the question, I can't remember what the motivation was to do it, but I know that once I got back into it, I mean, 2010 when I plugged back in, and as I say, when I listened to that Firelord remix, and it was like, whoa, people can do this. And then from the sort of, I think probably the reason I never did anything from 98 until 2010 was I was really busy in a comedy band, and we were working a lot and working on the holiday camps through the summer and working in the clubs through the winter, and whatever the musical need in me is, it was being satiated by going out and playing in that band. I think Change of Direction perhaps was round about that time that band finished, and I wasn't really doing anything from a band point of view, and I was looking for something else musically. Went back into the sort of Remix 64 website, listened to some of the remixes, and went, I need to be doing some remixes. I need to at least be putting something on there, and sort of get what kind of response it gets. And Monty on the Run was the first remix I did back in 2011, which was reasonably well received, and people seem to like it. I've done an update on it since, just because the technology changes in 6 years. So in sort of 2018, I put another, or 2017, 2018, I put an updated remix on. And really, once you're back in, there's some really nice people on this scene, and I think if you ignore, we're all aware that there are negative people in this scene, but the nice people far outweigh the negative people.
Most definitely, yes.
That is very true. And actually, one of the earliest remixes made by DHS, Bobble. Yeah. How did you feel when you heard first people remixing your stuff?
I think that you well, for me anyway, when people do a remix of a piece of work that I've produced, I'm really happy about it. And it doesn't matter what the quality of the remix is. It doesn't matter whether it gets a puke face on it or it gets a nice big red smiley face on it. Somebody was affected strongly enough by a piece of work that I did that they bothered to take the time and the effort to do some sort of remix of it. And Slagon, you know this firsthand. Ziona, you know this firsthand. People who make remixes know what it takes to make a remix.
Yes.
You know how much you put in, and you know how little you can put in, and you also know how much you can put in. And if you remix a piece of my music, I'm guessing you like it, and you possibly like it quite strongly.
Yeah, it triggered something in you to make it to make you choose it to begin with, but then it have to have some sort of weight to it for you, emotionally or musically or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So for me, I think, irrespective of what others may think of that particular remix, for me, that's quite humbling for me, because somebody's bothered to remake a piece of music that I created. Some people don't feel that way. I've had long arguments on YouTube with certain people about the merits of remixes. Some of them will liken a remix to Painting by Numbers, and they will belittle it. I totally disagree. As somebody who has created original music, but on the SID, who's created original music of a more commercial type, as in what you're playing tonight, of somebody who's created remixes of my own stuff and remixes of other people's stuff, I completely disagree. I think it's GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. But if you put quality in and you put time and effort in, you get good stuff out, and it has merits that make that remix stand on its own.
Yeah, and here comes another question then, because you did quite great own compositions as well. What do you enjoy to do more, remixing or composing?
Tough one. You're not going to get an easy answer out of me on that one.
I knew that, but I try anyway.
Obviously, when you write your own music, you are completely without boundaries. You can go where you want. You can use the instruments that you want. With remixes, you can give yourself more restriction if you want to be bound by the original. I personally feel some of that restriction when I do a remix. I want to keep it recognizable for the listeners. I'm also a sucker for hooks and familiarity. So if I can keep the same hooks in my remix that were in the original, or were in a remix that I'm, I wouldn't say copying, but in a remix that I'm covering. Then I'm bound. There's restriction there. You've not got the freedom that you've got with original. Which do I prefer? I don't know. I'll tell you what I really enjoy in my original stuff. I enjoy the vocal work that I do in my original stuff. That's still something which gets a very mixed reaction if it goes into a remix. Vocals are not commonplace in the remix.
That seemed to be the crowd divider on the remixing scene. With the vocals.
As my friend Lala knows, which is why when I reviewed his forgive me, I can't remember the name of the track that I reviewed, but his off the wall track with the sheep and the campfire.
Right.
And some people were less than kind about it, but I thought to myself, you know what, Remix 64 and Qued should be about pushing the boundaries, and so I wrote within my review. I said it deserved more, just purely because it got off its backside and did something a little bit different.
And it was wasn't that contribution at the Bit Live remixing compo?
No, that was Arok Party remix, I think. Right. Yeah, exactly, because he had 2 entries there last year, if I remember correctly. But let me look that up just to be correct. And we're just.
We don't need to look that up. It's irrelevant.
It may have been his Paperboy remix.
Yeah, exactly. Paperboy High Score, Angelized, indeed, and it was made last year. So
forgive me, Lala.
I think he's forgiving you anyway, so it's fine.
And we talked about your tools, but DMC had a question here. I was waiting for a while to ask it. Yeah, I'd like to know how the Defender of the Crown concert was produced. Real orchestra, completely inside the box or a mixture of both. How long did it take from to finish this masterpiece, from start to end, I guess? And the last question: what does the elf talk about? Thanks, and keep up the excellent work, Peter.
Okay. What the elf talks about is really, really easy to tell you. If you go on to the track on Remix 64 and read the bio at the side for the track, you will see there's a link. And the link will take you to a page in the forum that has a scroll on it, which translates the Elvish into English.
Nice.
How tricky.
So you can actually see what the story that the elf is telling.
You saw that coming, did you?
yeah, that bit's easy. Production, DOTC. It's in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 real sections. And to be honest, each of those sections was produced as a separate piece of music in the DAW. And the reason for that is it completely frees up the DAW to use different instrumentation in all the different parts if I wanted to. Some instruments remained constant throughout, some changed in and out for the different pieces. But it just gave me the freedom to be able to compose the piece from start to finish and not worry about, I've got to put that on that track because it's on that track in the piece before, or anything like that. I could just literally compose the piece. Of the 5 pieces, for me, there are the highlights within it. The love theme in the middle really, really worked for me. I found some really, really tasty string movement within it, within the strings. The rundown, there's a very subtle rundown at the end of the song with the strings, which is discord, but it just fits so beautifully at the end of the song. The jousting piece of music, the volume drops in the middle of the music, and the horses race left to right, right to left, meet in the middle, the lances clash, the shields shatter, the crowd roars and then claps. I already had the idea of putting sound effects behind the music and really trying to make it like a film score. But in general, the sort of later ideas, Lala gave me some great ideas for little. They seem, in retrospect, maybe to him only little tiny ideas, but some of it just shaped the way that it ended up. So he really made a contribution to it. That's, I suspect, the reason why he hasn't reviewed it. But which I totally understand. Why he wouldn't do that, having sort of had a hand in it. But he was great. In total, it took probably from the start to the very, very end 2 months. And instrumentation, it was all VSTs. There was nothing outside the box within that. It was all choir VST, string VSTs, and obviously the rest, individual instruments in some cases, a lute. I used some symphobia within it just to get some of the layered sounds behind the elf talking. But the pieces themselves, for the most part, are orthodox orchestra instruments. If that answers it.
I think that covered it all.
And you have great work in progress. Not long, but it's really inventive at the start as well. So should we take a listen on Forbidden Forest?
What we would call a sneaky peek.
Sneaky peek, yeah. You said that it's like very much in a start phase yet. So
yeah, absolutely. It's literally just the first couple of minutes of an idea for a remix, and I just thought it might be fun to sort of say, look, this is not a full tune yet. This is just something I'm working on.
Have to. Yeah, I know we have to emphasize that. That's important. How many hours of work did you put into it?
Probably just an hour into it up to now.
Okay, so here is what Peter Clarke can do in an hour.
I bid you welcome.
Leave tonight, I beg of you, before it is too late.
1 hour work, you say.
Well,
Well.
I don't know if we should believe this, but okay. Yeah. I'm just curious if people are moving on the channel or anywhere. What's up with Facebook?
Yeah, DMC said, an hour?
This goes on far too long for an hour of work, Martin Land said.
And Lala says, wow, this is sounding really promising, Peter.
Yeah.
maybe 2 hours.
Yeah, okay.
It's literally just the beginnings of something that hopefully will grow, and I need to weave a little more spookiness into it, I think, and
Yeah, I like the
Seghel
idea
will
about
love
it.
that. He's crazy about spooky things. Are you?
Absolutely.
And I love it too, actually. Even if most of the things, I have a guest behind me, but
I'll send you my 1 hour take on Forbidden Forest. I did that literally an hour before a Halloween show as an intro for the show. I'll
that
send
would
you
be
that.
interesting. Yeah. Indeed, you should. You should. Definitely. I don't know if you are familiar with his cinematic album that came out last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've actually I have listened to a couple of bits on your SoundCloud page that you give me the link to.
All right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, there's some other stuff than remixes too.
So is he Martin Galway?
No, I'm just someone that puts a few pieces like samples together and call it music. That's what I am. I'm not a musician.
No, honestly, you're not. Of course you are. Absolutely. Seghel, you've been like really, really active all the way through. So don't think that you're not someone who's a major contributor and a major contender when it comes to things like ROTY Awards and things like that. We were joking, and you said you managed 556 this year, and you were gutted about the 6. But
I am, because I wanted 3 5s.
But you beat me in the veteran category.
Oh,
I was 7 in the
Great job.
I'll take that as a win. No, but like I think you mentioned earlier, and indeed on RSC as well, and some Remix 64 comment somewhere that everyone who contributes is just brilliant. I love when you get new stuff out there. That's the most important thing, I think.
If we don't keep the newcomers who come, if we don't encourage them to contribute more and become remixers and become veterans, eventually, or quite soon, the scene can die. And if we love it, then it's up to us to do all we can to keep the thing alive. So it's up to us to keep remixing, but it's also up to us to encourage the newcomers to come back again and put another remix in there. Which is why, in terms of reviews and critique about remixes, it is absolutely okay to be critical of a remix. I'm not in any way saying that people should not be. The truth should be spoken, or people do not improve. But if you imagine when you're writing a comment or a review that the person is sat in front of you, then go ahead and write what you would say to their face.
I agree.
And that is usually okay. That's usually okay.
Definitely.
So it's about being constructive. It's about, if you need to tell, if your honest opinion is that this is a complete piece of garbage, find some positives in it. Find something in it that helps it to work, and highlight the thing that helps it to work, rather than just tearing the thing down and running the chance of never seeing that person again with a better remix next time.
Yeah.
For me, anyway, that's my opinion.
Very true.
Definitely. Yeah,
Sure.
and usually there is always something that you can hold on to, even if the entire production is not like that high quality, I think.
Absolutely.
And we have a question that is usually asked. Spawatch there's a reason why it's asked. He said, well, since our guest mentioned driving and becoming a racing driver, even if only in theory or as a rhetorical figure, how about, my usual question, what is your car? And what is your dream car that you would drive?
In the world of fantasy, probably a Tesla. Just that ability to be able to look to the right in the UK to the boy racer who's revving his nuts off in the outside line and mouth the words, "Go on then." I drive something really, really practical. I drive a Peugeot Estate, but I drive it so that I can get the gear in the back of the car for doing gigs. My other half is also a sports commentator herself, so she goes off and carries equipment here, there, and everywhere. So the Peugeot Estate's just a really, really practical tool for the job. And just to put, I suppose, an extra little bit on the answer to the question, the best thing I've ever owned was in my mid-40s. I had a Mitsubishi GTO VR4, 3-litre, twin-turbo, 360 brake horsepower, twin intercoolers, an absolute beast of a car. And to use a phrase, the best fun I've ever had with my pants on.
I think Boz had a similar car that he called Mitzi, but he imported his from Japan.
Well, strange enough, I imported mine from Japan as well.
Well, there we go.
So same side of the road, right side of the road for the steering wheel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I went in the wrong side first. So he asked me when he picked me up from the airport, so you're going to drive me? I don't even have a driver. Oh, wait, there's a steering wheel here.
Super confusing part of the story.
Sure.
Yeah, and what happened with that car, by the way?
The place where I got transferred within my job. So I would have actually been put in an extra 200 miles a week.
Okay.
on the car, and I wasn't bothered about the extra 200 miles a week on the car. It was the fuel. Yeah, so it was practicality.
Okay.
So
Gotcha. And speaking of gigs, would you still plan a gig? Because not that long ago you were doing gigs. Obviously not in the next 12 weeks, and probably not this year, but maybe in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I've not retired from doing gigs. I'll probably continue to play and perform as long as I can pick up a guitar, and as long as I've got half a voice, I'll go out, I'll gig with bands. I've sort of pretty much always done that most of my life.
When did you start? How old were you when you started?
I started around about 1978.
78.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I would have been about 20. I learned to play when I was 19. So I learned very late, really, compared to some. The downside to learning when you're 19 is, how can I put this? The fastest guitarists in the world tended to learn when they were quite young, and they achieved their speed while their bodies were still growing, and so they became fast.
Right.
Yeah, and they have this muscle memory thing going for them.
Yep. But it seems to be partly to do with the fact that your body hasn't finished growing as well, that you're learning these very, very fast movements with fingers and with wrist.
Yeah.
Never thought of that, but yeah, makes sense.
It's so I play well, but I'm not by any stretch the fastest guitarist in the world when it comes to lead breaks. And so I try to substitute that with
mean riffs.
No, tasty stuff. If I held up a guitarist that I think is the tastiest guitarist in the world, then it would be Dave Gilmour from Pink Floyd.
I was going for Mark Knopfler because he doesn't do very quick guitar stuff either, but it's got so much emotion in there.
Have you ever listened to the end of Sultans of Swing?
Oh God, I have the LP back here behind this wall.
If you don't think he's fast, listen to the very end of the lead break.
I didn't say he's not fast, but when he plays, it's not the fastness that he plays on; it's the emotion that
it's
he can,
the expression.
The emotion that he can kind of squeeze out of that guitar. It's just amazing.
So yeah, I mean that's more my bag with lead guitar playing. But I mean, I play keyboards as well. So I mean, it's just a case of seeing what comes along once our Uncle Corona has departed the building.
Evil aunt.
Yeah, let's see what comes along and see who wants a singing musician in the band. But yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, I've no plans to stop gigging. It literally just is house arrest at the moment for me for 12 weeks, and then
in your case, right now I'm just afraid to ask, but there's supposed to be a Back in Time live event happening around October, maybe, but I don't know. Would you care?
Could be postponed. We shall see. It's. I mean, I think. Certainly from the UK's point of view, with to put it bluntly, the way the UK government has just dragged its backside with what it hasn't done, this thing looks like it's going to be around certainly until the end of the year, and maybe beyond. So it's really just about seeing where it goes and how high the numbers get.
Yeah, and how it affects everything else.
And if Uncle Corona would disappear, would you care to participate in a Norwegian Back in Time live event?
It sounds wonderful.
It is great.
It is absolutely fantastic, and I think you would love that.
We shall. What should we say? Let's aspire to do that.
Let's hope.
Shake hands on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No rubber gloves needed.
No, it's virtual.
Yeah.
Also, all good.
Yeah, indeed. Well, who knows? Maybe there will be, if anything, a remix competition can be always made. And last year there was a remix competition. I don't know if you are familiar with this, but there were around how many entries? 20 new remixes.
Right.
A lot of quality ones. So Seghel did one of them, and he achieved to end up at the second place. But you can always say challenge accepted. So
well, I don't know. I don't know whether I should accept a challenge that isn't directly thrown down by the person. You can't have somebody's partner throwing a challenge down on his behalf.
I need to think about this before I challenge you. I need to have a fucking chance to win at least.
Yeah, there's nothing like being volunteered by your wife, you know.
I know.
That was a metaphorical wife I was talking about.
Yeah, I understand.
Obviously.
Girlfriend, wife, whatever. Anyway, I think we are nearing the end.
Yes, indeed. We sort of hit the end, and it feels like we just started, so...
Yeah, it does.
Sorry. And as a last question, I would probably ask, what would be your dream project or dream goal to achieve? Like, you achieved so many things, but if there would be like anything on the list then what would you like to do musically?
I guess on one level, I'd love to do the music for one more computer game.
So you will
interesting.
get back to games.
Yeah.
And
No. Just one more computer game.
Just one, and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, the industry now is so tough to break into. It isn't done in the way it was done in the 80s. Those days have gone forever. Games are very formulaic now, and it's a sad thing on one level because we don't see the craziness of the independent games back then. All those games that didn't quite do what they should, but they nearly did. But guess what? The game that came after them did it in spades. It's that kind of thing. We've lost that sort of the chance for greatness, because actually games, by being built to a formula, in some ways get limited now. I think also there's a formula to the music and the way that it's produced now, and it isn't a case of saying anymore, we'll get Rob Hubbard to do that, we'll get Martin Galway to do that, or even we'll get Peter Clarke to do that. It's an orchestra track, there's a budget for it, there's a time involved, something similar to what we watched in Prague. Yeah, tea breaks at a certain time, finish at a certain time. we do
chop,
it.
Chop, chop.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's more of a fantasy than a real. But if you said what would be your dream project, it would be to do one more computer game.
Never say never.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah, you have your demo reel out there on RKO, so
The demo reel, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Well, if Cinemaware ever come back into existence, possibly. Yeah, absolutely. It's, to be fair with you, dreams, projects, great to be walking around and walking upright. If coronavirus decides to pass me by, fantastic. If I get back out and get in another band, brilliant. And to be fair, it's sometimes things in life give you a different perspective on what comes next and what comes in the future.
that is true.
It's great just to be alive and to be doing stuff that I like. It's great to be talking to other great people. It's don't sweat the small stuff, and live life and enjoy it, and help people, don't hinder them. Do what you can, move along, live the best life you can. That's and I'm not trying to be a philosopher. I really am not. You're talking to the village idiot of philosophy here.
That just sounded like an honest truth, and simple as that. Yeah.
You could teach positive mentality for others.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Just get out there and do what you want to do.
Yeah, it's so important, in not just in what I've been through, but in so many things, just to keep positive. The most important thing in life is have a purpose. Have something to get up for in the morning.
Yeah.
Something that excites you. And if your job doesn't do it, find something else that does. And I don't mean drop your job and go. I mean, find something in your hobby life that gives you a buzz. Whatever it is, find something somewhere in your life that just keeps you moving forward every day.
Totally.
Yeah. That's what it's all about.
It is.
We totally
Very
agree
nice.
on that.
Yeah.
Very nice final words, I think.
Definitely.
I just want to say thank you for joining us today.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me on.
No, thank you.
And thank you for your time. It's it was really an honor to welcome you here, and I'm so glad that we could get to know you a little bit more than after your remixes, because a lot of people know you here, but now they know you even more. And we are really looking forward to the next upcoming things. And at some point, you said you might release that
Clint
CD.
and Pete Glyn and Pete.
And Glyn and Pete.
I just to put something that could be 2021.
Yeah,
I think that could be 2021. If it's before, it's a bonus, but I think realistically it may be 2021 when we do that. But we shall see anyway.
Well, if you sit together, but there are ways of communication, like now we are communicating. So maybe now that you set up Skype,
you can't have an argument about mixing over Skype.
Right. Okay. Well, that is too bad. I didn't think of that. I mean, you have to probably share your entire environment, and maybe then
there are ways to do that. I'll point you to some resources as to how to do that in a real-time environment. You can do that.
No mercy right now, no escape. You have to make it happen.
I want that remix.
You mean you can abuse somebody and tear them down virtually?
Yes.
Bad news.
Yeah.
So but I guess you will have a lot of time. And a lot of us have a lot of time right now spent in between these walls, and they might be not only limitations, they might be expanding your limits.
Yeah, exactly. Investigate the things you haven't had time to investigate before.
Yeah, indeed. And as the last song, I lined up your own composition as well. I'm really looking forward for this CD to come out, if it will happen.
Me too.
It will happen.
Good.
That's great. Yeah, because 9 tracks, and we managed to show at least 4 of them, which is great, and they are your own compositions. So that was a sort of exclusive anyway. And it would be the long road that we would say goodbye with for today. And could you tell a few words about that?
This was the first song I ever wrote. In 2016, amazingly. In 2016, I suddenly discovered I could write songs.
Wow.
I've always been pretty much able to compose music, but I could never ever put together the whole deal, the music, the crafting, and the lyrics. Oh my God, the lyrics! So struggled, trying not to write cliches, trying not to write just to write reasonable lyrics. So the golden rule apparently is write about what you know. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was playing in bands. Mm-hmm. So this was the first song I ever wrote. This is a song just about playing in bands, traveling around, and encountering different kinds of people when you do that. Plain and simple, nothing more, nothing less.
And then we couldn't pick a better wind down tune, I think.
No, I think it was good. Absolutely brilliant.
Okay, so thank you so much once again, and thank you everyone for keeping up with us and listening. And today's show was a bit longer than usual, which
slightly,
which makes us very happy. And I don't know how others are with this, but hopefully them as well. And we wish you absolute good luck and very much take care of yourself right now in these months. And we hope that this situation will get better eventually, at some point. And for the next 12 weeks, a lot of creativity and the juices we wish for you, spending the time at home. So,
yeah. And thank you, Pete, for joining us, and everyone else who joined in and listened. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, indeed. And everyone have a good night. If you want to have any final last words or goodbye, probably this is the time then, on air. He is typing.
No, it's okay. I was just about to type what I shall say now. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. Whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on YouTube, or you're typing in IRC, or you're typing in the other two and joining in. Thanks for taking part. I've really, really enjoyed it. I hope you guys have enjoyed it too. Love to do it again sometime. And Ziona Slagon, thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing, guys. Keep remixing.
Thank you so much.
Couldn't
It was
agree
our
more.
pleasure.
Keep remixing.
Indeed.
It's like, what's her name? Dora in Finding Nemo. Keep on swimming. Keep on remixing.
Almost works.
Almost. Anyway.
Indeed. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everyone. And yeah, see you everyone next week, hopefully without an illness. We will see.
Hopefully.
Indeed. And here comes the long, long road.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Go to work, punch the clock. Lessons I have learned. Fame and fortune so elusive, they never made me young. Growing up in a dozen places, never seemed to fit. Never understood the reasons I could never sit. So time moved on, I just moved along, just looking for something to brighten my day. Oh, it's a hard, hard life, just keeps on getting harder each day. Traveled up and down this country, my guitar in hand, singing all the golden oldies with a silver band. Some folks stare, other people just don't care. Well, maybe we've got something to brighten your day. It's a long, long road, just keeps on getting longer each day. Long, long road, going my way. Punch the clock, lessons I have learned. Fame and fortune so elusive, they never made me young. Guess I'll always be a drifter, backing up the miles, singing songs, watching faces, looking for the smiles. Leave behind same old daily grind. Find a little something to brighten your day. Oh, it's the same old song, but I'm singing in my own way. Same old song, never led me astray. And it's a long, long road, just keeps on getting longer each day. Long, long road, going my way.
Commodore 64, Commodore 64,
Commodore 64.
8-bit, no shit.
Slay Radio.